I recently made a video about one of our boas, Sunny, and I based it around the 3 adjectives that I thought best describe his personality. When I tried to use the same format to make this video about Lulu here, I immediately ran into difficulties. The first adjective I thought of was suspicious, because she does sometimes seem to exhibit symptoms of mistrust. That said, she'll sit on my shoulders for long periods of time and seem perfectly calm, so suspicious seemed harsh. Then I thought a little bit suspicious, but that sounds like there's something suspicious about her, when what I want to say is that she's suspicious about what's going on around her. In the end, I decided that her personality is too complex to sum up in just 3 adjectives, and she's a girl who demands paragraphs rather than bullet points. When we first got Lulu, we made some mistakes that I think may have been responsible for her somewhat nervy disposition. We'd been excitedly preparing for her arrival for weeks, but we'd got ourselves in a bit of a tiz about the temperature and the humidity level in her vivarium. We couldn't get the cool end warm enough without turning the warm end into a kiln, so we were worried about that. And we'd seen online that it's a good idea to keep a new snake on paper towels for the first few weeks, which we were planning to do, but paper towels don't hold humidity very well, so the air in her vivarium was too dry. While we were busy worrying about those 2 things, we weren't worrying enough about providing her with proper cover. We knew it was important for her to have plenty of places to hide. We just hadn't got around to buying the plants and the branches and the things that we needed when we received a text message from the reptile courier saying she'd be with us in a couple of hours, 2 days ahead of schedule. All that she had in her vivarium at that point were 2 hides, 1 at each end, and a piece of wood. In fact, even if we had got everything that we thought we needed, it wouldn't have made any difference because we would have put the branches and the plants on the ground. And the first thing that she did when we put her in her vivarium was shimmy up to the rafters and look for somewhere to hide up there. She knotted herself around the wires connecting the heat and lamp bulbs to the power source, and she stayed there for days. I'd read that Hog Island boas, and young Hog Island boas in particular, are semi-arboreal. Having had Lulu for a couple of years now, I can tell you she's almost 100% arboreal. And of course, we didn't know she'd be that arboreal when she first arrived, and we were slow to respond to the indications that she wanted to live above ground, thinking that at some point she'd come down from her wires and go to sleep in one of her hides. She didn't, and eventually we got her branches to perch on and plants to hide behind, and she started to settle in. Another thing that can't have helped is that once we got her some branches, she'd tangle herself up in them so thoroughly it was really difficult to take her out of her vivarium. If a snake is on the ground, you can just reach in and scoop them up, but we had to disengage her coils from the branches, which was a struggle, and it must have been very stressful for her. We didn't know what to do because, of course, we didn't want to cause her anxiety, but we needed to be able to handle her, and we wanted her to get used to being handled. In the end, what made the difference was we got her a sky hide, which we should have got her in the first place, and now we can just slide the hide out with her in it, and she's generally fine about it. I do think that not having a sky hide and plenty of cover from the start might have affected her emotional development and made her a bit... Also, we were a little bit nervous ourselves. It had been a really long time since I'd had pet snakes. My wife had never had a pet snake, and although we knew Lulu couldn't hurt us, we were a little bit wary, which probably didn't help to make her feel at home. Having said she's jumpy, she does have the confidence to come out of her vivarium on her own and roam around the living room, and these days when we handle her, she always seems very relaxed. She's never bitten us, and I can only remember 2 occasions when she struck at us, both a while ago now. One was when we'd just come back from the pub, and I want to stress here that we weren't singing Pogue songs or wearing traffic cones on our head. We were just in a nice, cheerful frame of mind. She was out and about in her vivarium, and when we came close, she struck at the glass. In my mind, that had something to do with the fact that we'd been drinking alcohol. I feel like she picked up a different vibe and it freaked her out. The only other time I can remember was when I'd been doing something in her vivarium, maybe rearranging her plants or her wood or something, and I just finished and turned away, and I heard a loud wooden thump behind me, and I think she'd struck at her coconut. We'd attached this coconut to the ceiling of her Viv when she was little in the hope that she'd use it as a hide, which she never did, and now she's way too big for it, but it still provides a little bit of cover. Sometimes she hisses at us when we can't see that there's anything to hiss about, but I suppose that's just because she's in a funny mood, or maybe she's just had a bad dream. Now here's where psychoanalyzing Lulu gets really interesting. Although of our three boas she's the nervous one, she's also the one who, if you point a camera at her, performs the best. She'll drape herself attractively around my shoulders, she'll crawl up onto the top of my head, she'll stay in shot the entire time. She's a star. Now, I'm not saying that she definitely knows what a camera is, or that she necessarily understands that we're making a video for YouTube, but she certainly rises to the occasion, so, draw your own conclusions. She's not alone in being a bit inept in social situations, and yet a brilliant performer. Emma Watson has described herself as shy, socially awkward, and introvert, and Keira Knightley doesn't like to be recognised when she's out in public, yet both are completely at home in front of a camera. Maybe Lulu's just the sensitive, artistic type, and the jumpiness she's prone to in her private life is just a foil for her charismatic on-screen persona. So that's Lulu. A bit of a mystery, maybe somewhat neurotic, but when the red light is on, a consummate content-creating professional. I suppose if I did have to try and sum her up in just one adjective, I'd say she's enigmatic. And that's a pretty cool thing to be. I'm afraid if I ask one of my closest friends to say which adjective they think best describes me, they might say bald.